Fear is a worry about the inevitable, and that can be an endless list of things that we are worried about. But in other cases, fear has a name and a face, and it can be a thing or an emotion or a person that is specific, that scares us because we worry about the potential outcome, the pain, the instability, the disappointment, the heartbreak, or whatever it is that we worry will become a consequence of that thing due to our participation or the lack thereof in certain forums in our lives. And if you give that fear permission, it takes over your life in more ways than you can imagine. Now, how do we give fear permission? Does anyone ever really open the door and invite it in? In a manner of speaking, yes, we do. We do give over. We do let fear take control. Take control of those projects that we think about, that we know we are capable of, but never embark on because of the worry of all those things that can go wrong. We let it take over when we give control of our relationships to fear, when we predict and anticipate and already start living those worries before those things even happen to us. And in this video today, I will have some reflective points on the major impact that fear can have in our lives and some strategies and simple ways that we can start to take back that control, to be in control and to master and overcome those very legitimate issues that scare us in our lives. Biggest aspect of fear is that it creates an enormous amount of anxiety for you to manage. But sadly, that anxiety drives a lot of us into abandoning projects and relationships and going into isolation and rejection. But really, that anxiety can be used meaningfully if you take it for reflection and for education around those areas that are being highlighted by your mind. Because generally, anxiety is telling you that something is very likely to go wrong. It's very likely to go wrong because of your unpreparedness on that journey in terms of education and emotion and finances or every other thing. And if you take the time to listen, to understand and address that anxiety, it will actually give you more motivation and clarity on that journey. Fear will create an endless amount of excuses towards whatever action you need to embark on. And these excuses will come in all shapes and forms, and a lot of them actually legitimate excuses as to why you can't do that thing or why you didn't do it right. You're a single parent, you don't have enough income, that job is 2 hours away. Lots of those excuses are actually true, but also all of those excuses have solutions if you are intentionally looking to move that thing forward. And therefore, instead of dismissing the excuses that come with your worries and your fears and anxieties and triggers, you can actually reflect carefully upon them and seek solutions. Try to reverse those situations. Imagine how you can arrive that 2-hour away job on time by leaving early, by taking a faster route, by moving closer. If you actually want to do that thing, you will find a way to address or eliminate those excuses and thereby limiting your amount of fear and anxiety around that thing. Because as we discussed, sometimes that anxiety is actually elevating meaningful things to your consciousness to make you resolve and deal with them as opposed to running away and hiding behind all of those excuses that pop up to address and to highlight your fear. Fear will kill your motivation and determination towards something. Because when you have those elevated levels of anxiety, you will bail at the first sign or the first challenge around that thing that you were already worried about, and you're more likely to give up on those projects or to consider yourself a failure because that voice was already in your head that you do not have what it takes to do that thing. And the way you can resolve that issue is to make room for the unexpected, to expect failure and to embrace it as part of your journey, to plan in advance, to make room for situations that you're not yet aware of, so that when you encounter those, you will already have half the solutions, understanding that they are part of the journey towards that thing. I always tell my kids when they leave home to take a jumper or something warm, even on the hottest day. And they'll look at me like, but Mom, look outside. It's amazing. And I'll say to them, yes, but we could have a breakdown. The weather could change. And whatever the situation that you embark on, you always have to plan ahead and think outside the box of things that could go wrong, so that you're still prepared, or so that you know in your mind that there are potential solutions to those pop-ups that do not cripple you on the journey to whatever it is that you embark on. When I started a YouTube channel, I was not under the impression that it's going to blow up and start making millions within a year. You want the best for that project, but you anticipate for the worst. Not so you can give up, but so that you can be prepared to remain resistant and persistent to anything that pops up to challenge you along that journey that you're embarking on. And that will kind of help you, to give you the determination and the motivation to remain persistent and consistent on those journeys. Fear will lead to isolation and procrastination if you're not careful. Because as much as isolation feels safe, it protects you from that external, that threat, that thing that you're worried about. Isolation itself is painful, is harmful. And once you adopt that mindset, you will be able to progress even with the fear, to feel it and take action anyways. And some people say fall forward, because standing in the same place is also falling, but it's guaranteed falling in that position, as opposed to taking a step forward that may well cause you to trip, but just the step itself is already evidence of progress. Sometimes we procrastinate because we are too worried about the value of that thing, and we don't feel that we are in the right state of mind, or that we have the right skills to do it just yet. A lot of the times we decline meaningful possibilities, opportunities, because we haven't yet seen the outcome, an outcome that you will never see unless you take meaningful action towards its acquisition. So it's really important to take action now and to take it purposefully, because running away just keeps you hiding and isolating from your true value in life. When you are faced with fear, you need to understand that it's one of two things. It's a prediction of the future that we are trying to manage or trying to protect ourselves from. We protect ourselves not just from the risk of harm, the risk of instability, or the risk of pain, but we also protect ourselves from the joy and beauty of life itself. And therefore, when you use your past experiences to predict your future, you're sitting down in a corner of isolation, a corner of abandonment, a corner of minimized worth, because you're worried that every meaningful action will be flawed. It will lead to betrayal. It will lead to pain or whatever disappointment it is that worries you. But no action itself is disappointment. It's minimization of what you're capable of the value that you can yield for yourself and for others in this lifetime. Ultimately, fear is an invitation for reinvention and innovation. It's an invitation to reflect and to grow, or to adjust, or to adapt, but to keep walking forward. If you embrace fear and run away from it, then you're denouncing the value of life. But if you look at that fear and use it to move forward purposefully, to move forward with courage, then by its own very definition, you're building your armor, your skills, your muscles. And every time you walk through that fear, you build your courage muscles. Because as the saying goes, there is no courage without the existence of fear. Because courage itself is what we build and cultivate and master to eradicate and move through fear. So instead of running, every time the anxiety is elevated, every time your worrying mind highlights something to you, figure out how you can get around or out of those things. By immediate action, by growth, by learning, by inviting people who have explored those areas, and every other thing that keeps you moving forward and learning and growing and becoming the best version of you. Fear is never going to be eliminated from our existence. So we have to learn to fall forward as we embrace and use it in our lives, because standing wherever we are in our lives is also falling. That kind of falling that we do not encourage.